Welcome to Coffee Chat with Angie, episode number 10, where we talk about eco-friendly ideas fighting against the shitstem of the bully dozer. Hi, how you doing? Okay, so episode 2B of the library, where we talk about we're trying to start with Genesis chapter 1. What I've done is, I went like almost a month or something without making any videos. I was just trying to think, like, how do I want to do this? So I decided, because there's different subjects that I talk about, that I'd have a different show for each subject. So I need a show for when I want to talk about the Bible, and that's this show. And then I have the Under the Witch's Moon, when I want to talk about witchy things, and then I have just regular coffee chat with Angie when I want to talk about anything else. So I could talk about anything at the same time. But anyway, so it's logical that episode 1 would be about Genesis chapter 1. But to begin talking about the Bible, it turned into a whole episode to even just get to starting to read the actual chat, to actually look at the chapter. Basically, what happened is all we did was we talked about, like just the subject of approaching, even reading the Bible, and who God is and who the God of the Bible is, and what I believe is the Bible infallible, things like that. So you'd want to start with episode 1A. This is episode 1B, where we'll actually dig in. Okay, so here is episode 1B. One day after a plane crashes into the ocean, and I land on an island, stranded, strayed from what I called Kafa Beach, and hidden under a palm tree by some dead sailor of the past. And I find a small suitcase under that palm tree, as if it was a time capsule. It had few things inside, each of which I cherished, including a King James Version Bible, which I called the library. Stranded on the island, the library became my entertainment, my TV, my friend. Okay, so now we can finally get to reading the book of Genesis. We talked about what the Pentateuch, and we haven't done that. There's been many translations. Some big, I didn't say any names. The Pentateuch, oh my gosh, I didn't premedit the Vulgate. That's the Latin, and there's like a whole bunch. Those are like from the past, and the one of them means like the 70. Is that the Pentateuch? I can't remember right now. But there's like Greek and Hebrew versions of things and things like that. So beside, anytime you talk about what a book, then also within the subject of that book, there's also maybe a variety of languages that have come together and then translated out, put into one language and then translated after that into another one, or who knows what, it can be crazy. So we're just going with the King James Version, just because it's the one we're used to hearing, and to me it's mostly a book of fiction anyway. So I don't really need it to be infallible or any of that. I've gone over that. Watch episode 1A. So it starts out, in the beginning, God, so we talked about that, Yahweh, YHWH. So you can see right there. So in Hebrew, you go the other direction. So there's a Yod, that's the first letter, Yod, and that represents fire. Che, which represents water. Vowel, which represents air, and then final che. Yochevache, pronounced Yahweh. But you're not supposed to walk around saying Yahweh. That's casting pearl before swine, so you just say Jah or Adonai, like Dan McClellan does. But anyway, so here it's saying God. God is, of course, the G-A-W-D. It's the Assyrian Most High God of their pantheon. God, G-A-W-D. So the English language has borrowed that. So here we've translated it in English. We put an English word, God. You know, God isn't the name of God. It's just the word for the God. In Hebrew, it's Elohim, which is plural for the Trinity. You know, and yeah, then that's not true. The Trinity and the Nicene Creed and all that. Yeah, I'm aware of that. That's another subject for another day. Right now, just so when we say God, you know, so that's a perfect example of translations. That says G-O-D, which is what the English language says for God, but it's borrowed from an Assyrian pantheon, which is a pagan. You know, things come out of pagan roots. In the beginning, God. So all gods are created by the hand of man, including this one, and it was borrowed in. We've already gone over that. That Yahweh is the storm god, the war god, there was, and then the southern kingdom was Elohim, which was borrowed from the Canaanites. El, the bull, the Most High God of their pantheon. So there's just different languages. See right there, even to just go over what it means by God. But when you read the whole Bible, the God of the Bible is Yahweh. And some say, no, it's Jesus, but a Christian believes that Jesus is God, is God. Did you hear me say that? And we just gone over that, which is Yahweh. And in the Kabbalah, I call it the Kabbalah. In the Kabbalah with a Q, and this book right here, which is the oldest written Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. It's pretty deep, like for the mathematical mind, it can branches you off into some kind of perfect circle or something, or I don't know. I'm not real good at that kind of stuff. For me, the main thing this book accomplishes is that fire, water, air, and earth, Yahweh, is Yod, which is it's sperm or hand or fire. And it represents fire, because like sperm creates the baby, or fire, is like your idea, it's the light bulb above the head, and the thing this book accomplishes is it makes the most basic of correspondences apparent, that the tetragrammaton, the letters of Yahweh represent fire, water, air, and earth. Vowel is a window. And so Dan McClellan has a video where he talks about how the Hebrew language was around and used for the purpose of like a language to talk to each other, and the things didn't really represent pictures and things like that. But the point with all this is that this book's making the point that, and it was definitely, this book didn't begin the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah existed before it was an oral tradition. It was like a fraternity of married men over 35 that want to take the religion a little deeper and think about the subject of what some of these letters mean, So that's like kind of the point of it. That's really what this is talking about. That's the point of the Kabbalah. It's the occult, which means hidden. It's the hidden side and the deeper side where you're starting to weigh, nitpick, and look at it in extreme philosophical, very much so, and such perspectives. So now you're looking at it, and these things become this, and so that's what this book kind of establishes, is that it establishes that the Yod represents fire, that it means sperm or hand, that it's the idea, because it goes with the tarot deck. with the wands, and that's for fire, and that's fire energy, and all that means. That's a whole subject, and I'll have to definitely I'll do maybe an episode just, or maybe I've already gone over it good enough. I'll have to decide. But then water is so it's masculine energy, feminine energy, masculine energy, feminine energy, with the tetragrammaton. I just did it backwards because I'm an English speaker, but fire is masculine, water is feminine, air is masculine, and earth is feminine energy. And all the zodiac break into those. There's, like, I'm a Taurus, that's an earth sign, you know. If you're a Leo, you're a fire sign, you know. So everything, all astrology, all the occult, all just everything, like the Masons, the Rosicrucians, magic, magicians, witchcraft, just everybody, it's all based on the tetragrammaton. And by the way, so do the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 correspond to this, and colors and all kinds of traditional correspondences. And you can change that for a personal correspondence if something already means that for you. It's not that type of a thing where it's set things. You know, this is just spelling it out. You could be an atheist and use the Kabbalah. You know, you just have to adapt it to your immediate situation. That's the whole point of making a working personal Kabbalah, is that you've gone through all the correspondences, and you've decided what numbers 1 through 10 mean in the Sephirot, which are the spheres of 1, 2, 3, 4, and where they are, and what they mean, and what colors correspond, and what and what all these things mean to you, you know. But the point is that it all breaks down to it, you know, like if I want to count to number 10, watch. Number 1, no. Number 1, no. Every time I try to say 10 by counting to number 10, I have to start at number 1. I can't just go straight to 10, can I? See? So anyway, so Yahweh. So God is not a man in the sky. That was a power trip. That was a thing they did to be able to control people. The Kabbalah is correct. The real idea of Yahweh is spirit, and the Catholic Church, as far as I know, believes God the Father is spirit. It's just the occult. It's I'm telling you, it's if data means anything to you, it's the heaped up data versus whatever else you're trying to believe. Sorry, but in the beginning, God, Yahweh. And I already went over the southern and northern kingdoms in the previous issue. I didn't even barely mention it in this one. See? Created the heaven and earth. So the heaven and earth is a whole subject too. You know, like in Jeremiah 23:24, where it's, you know, God creates heaven and earth. It's number 1. So under the Sephirot, there's number 1. You know, like, let's see, I have to do it backwards because it's for you. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. And each one has a sphere. And so you got to decide what number, but number 1, 2, and 3 is across the abyss. And then number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are below the abyss. And number 6 is the self. So number 1 is the idea. It's the light. It's the color white, because white is none of the colors. It's beyond anything we know that can describe, and beyond comprehension. Truth is, there's number 0 is the first number, and number 0, and this is all relevant, very, very relevant. Though this is my assertion very much at the same time, but I'll go over that. The true way to count to number 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Incorrect. The first number is 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we start at 0 again. You know, with 0, 10 is really 1 and 0. Now they're all going to start with 0, right? So then number 20 is 2 and 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then 30 is 3 with 0. See, with each new bracket, it starts at 0. And so that's why 0 comes first. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13. That's the true way to count. And so there's above number 1 is there. We say there's 3 negative vowels because it's beyond our comprehension. It's beyond us. So we put 3 to mean, it's not any one thing, but it's above that, and it's not that either. It's above that, and that implies that it could go on infinitely. 3 kind of implies infinity, in other words, beyond comprehension, infinity. Number 0. 0 is all of it. It does start with the chicken. The chicken gets pregnant, and then the egg comes out. The vagina. Number 1 is the penis. But the penis starts the whole thing, and that's fire, and that's the idea, the sperm, the twinkle in your father's eye. Number 1. Okay, and that's also Y in Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. The English correspondences are YHWH. So that's what we're used to seeing, right? You all know Yahweh spelled YHWH, and it's like, yeah, but that's just the English correspondence. So that's what the Kabbalah is trying to figure out what the correspondences are. So you did know some basic Kabbalah, and you didn't even realize it. Okay, so God created the heaven and the earth. So in Jeremiah 23:24, there's a good example where he talks about God creates the heaven and the earth, and that's number 1. Number 1, number 2. Number 2 is gray. Number 3 is black. Keter, which means crown, and the crown chakra, number 1, and that's the idea. It's number 2, it's starting to become manifest. Number 10 is manifest form. Number 1 is the idea. Number 10 is the idea made manifest. Or when we're working through the lightning flash through 1, 2, 3, we're doing it in order. We go from Keter to Kokma, number 2, which is gray. And then from Kokma to Bina. Those are the Hebrew words that correspond. See, there's a correspondence for everything. And then 1 is white. 3, Bina, is black. Black is all the colors. White is none of the colors. Kokma is gray. Gray is halfway. It's half white, half black. See, so it's something in between. So if there's something in the universe and it's an idea, that's 1. It's either big, small, near, far, anything else. Number 2, there's 2 things. So it's not really near, far, small. You need 1 more thing. You need 3 things before you have enough things to compare and blah blah blah, that it creates, that you actually have something. So the supernals, the numbers 1 through 3, and then the negative vels above that, everything above the abyss, in other words, is it's all beyond us. It's become something of something, and that's number 3. And then number 4, Kesed, which its corresponding planet is Jupiter, which is big enough to fit all the other planets inside. Number 4, that's the last letter of the tetragram. YHWH, Yahweh. The fire, water, air, and earth. Earth means manifest form, the earth, So number 4, you've tasted the first number across the abyss. Now you have something. You have the name Yahweh, but you still, by the time you got to number 4, so number 4 is when this God we expect to be infallible is really just number 4. But look at all the stuff everything I've been talking about. It's all the other stuff that's happened before that. We create gods out of we're humans, out of our mind and our languages in our head, which are words and thoughts. And if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to think so many things, and because I know English, a lot of my thoughts will just convert into the English correspondence of that thought, and I'll be thinking in English. So God created the heaven and the earth, and like in Jeremiah it says, Jah creates heaven and earth. Jah is a better translation than God, because that's not an Assyrian word, it's just short for Yahweh. So the one we're actually talking about. And the earth was, in verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the faces of the waters. So that's number 0. And so like your Bible probably, like mine, it breaks it and says, it says the new beginning, the first day. So the first, everything I've said so far isn't even the first day. The first day, which the corresponding number for the first day is number 1. Remember? But so that means what I believe, and like I said, it's my assertion. I don't know how to prove this. It's just what I believe because I'm more into the Kabbalah than I am the Bible. Probably because I want to. I don't know, but to me, everything that's before this is number 0. So it isn't until you get to verse 3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That's number 1. Now we're on. Only now are we on the subject of number 1. Everything else was about where the subject of where thoughts come from and what's beyond our comprehension, and is God connected to that too? And because of the Hebrew, and I left a link in the description box on the first video because I go over it more, how in the beginning doesn't mean the creation of the world. It just means the beginning of the story. It's like saying once upon a time. When you say once upon a time and you tell a fairy tale, it doesn't mean the beginning of the universe. It just means we got to start somewhere, so let's to get this story started, And what we're doing here is we're establishing who the God is that we're going, because this whole book's about God and the followers of this God. So Genesis chapter 1 is about establishing, even before you pick it up, you're already, who's this God? And then it says, in the beginning, God, and it brings up the subject of God. That's the question, the real question of Genesis chapter 1 is there a God? What is God? Who is God? How do I talk about God? Who, how did it start? Where did it come from? And these type of questions. So we're establishing which God we'll be talking about, which God these people will be, what's this, that's the subject we're talking about. So if you're a Kabbalah person, you would say, no, there's no data to support the idea that Moses was thinking of the Kabbalah when he talked about the creation story and the supposed book of Moses. And whether that's really Moses. So chapter 1, the book of Genesis has 2 beginnings. Remember, there was the northern records and the southern records. The northern records had their version of the creation story, and the southern records had their version of it. And so Genesis chapter 1 is one of their versions, and then Genesis chapter 2 is so the chapter Genesis chapter 1 ends on the 6th day. Remember, God created the world in 7 days. That's why there's 7 days in the week, and rested on the 7th. So Genesis chapter 1 are the first 6 days of creation, all the work that's done. Genesis chapter 2 starts out, it says, and then on the 7th day God rested, and it was the Sabbath. It starts with the Sabbath and it explains that. It does the 7th day is just like the first 2 verses. And then it starts talking again about the creation, how God created the earth, and you can tell it's a new beginning of another book. And then so the Sabbath verses and where the chapter begins and starts and all that, it's something that's been glued, 2 records that have been glued together, And that's why on the 5th day, God, man and woman are created, like the whole Australopithecus afarensis and what happened before, like in evolution we know that the apes that we've because by definition humans are apes, period, by definition, so just analyze each syllable and the exact definition of what we're talking about. So I kind of forgot what I was talking about, but it's about evolution, about astral. So man, on the 5th day, man and male and female were created, and that's like in Ethiopia, Australopithecus afarensis. We know we came from that part of the world, and we know with science. So the Bible, the people that wrote the Bible didn't know enough about our origins and things that we can know, and the same data that we have today with archaeology and with these things. and it's very manipulative. Like the creationists, they like one of the things that stand out in my mind is that they said, and they only have 10 bones to represent what they're saying about this, and they show this picture of these 10 bones, and it's the end of a long table with like hundreds of bones that were laid out on it, and that's just super manipulative and never using the facts. They don't even know the vocabulary words that they're using, and just all kinds of horrible manipulative crimes are being committed. And that just goes with it's because they're guilty of the sin of saying that they know more than the scientists do. You know, not that that's impossible, but you would have to actually know the information, or you don't. You know. So, anyways, so manipulating in that just proves that that's just evidence against you that you don't actually know the information. So like a good reference on that, I recommend Gutsig Gibbons' channel on YouTube. Go to that YouTube channel, and there you'll get some, and someone that actually knows what they're definitely talking about and can tell you with much force about that subject. Okay, so like to me, it's like, am I open-minded about creationism? It's like, wow, you'd have to literally ignore everything that could even remotely be called a fact about translation, about what the Bible is, about all these things I've been saying, and all the things that like Gutsig Gibbons could say, and etc., etc., etc. Okay, so anyway, so let's not waste time on that, so the Genesis chapter 1, man and woman, and then it's the Genesis chapter 2, glued together the two texts, and then it starts the creation a little bit over again, and suddenly there's a man named Adam, and then Eve's created out of his Eve, and most of the stuff that you're thinking of in the creation story is most of that the Adam and Eve story. That's Genesis chapter 2, not Genesis chapter 1. But it's confusing, see, because traditionally we think that the man and woman that's created on the fifth day is Adam and Eve. That it's just an overlay, But now we know they're two different records, and the different authors are trying to say different things and trying to talk to different audiences for different times and different cultures and different places for very different reasons. The Bible is not univocal, like Dan McClellan says. Okay, so these first the days, what I just called day 0. So the Bible scholars are saying that that's another text right there where where it's something that's been added in. And now when I say the first day, that's actually the beginning of the thing that I'm saying Genesis chapter 1 is. They're saying it starts at verse 3, and the things that I was calling day 0, that's actually another piece that's been added on for the purpose of making this all look like one book called the Book of Genesis. An artistic liberty that was one of the translators and the people involved did at one point. And anytime a statement like that's made in the world of the scholars, there's going to be, all scholars don't, they're not univocal either. They don't all say that things mean the same things. There are moments when they all are saying that something is what it is, There are points where they do all agree, but there are points where there's differences of opinions. Some are atheists, some are not, for example. Okay, so I am not an atheist, so you probably think I am. I'm a witch. Okay, verse 3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So it's like, why are we both reading this Bible? Angie's a witch. Kabbalah with a Q. Kabbalah with a Q. That's why I'm here. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Number 1, the idea. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning or the first day. So if you were floating in outer space and you're so far away from any sun, and you looked at your hand, and you wouldn't be able to, but just hypothetically, would it be lit up? Would it be lit up? Would there be enough light on your hand that you could see it, or would it be like being in a pitch black room? Personally, my theory is that I don't know what scientists and experts say, but I think you would, because when you're in the wilderness and it's really, really dark, the stars, the experience of the stars are much more intimate, and you can kind of see space. And what you're seeing, you know, you're not seeing. I mean, like, I guess your hand, you're still getting sunlight. There is sun kind of coming in, you know. And I bet you that, like, even on pitched, even when it's as dark as it can get on Earth, I bet you there's still some sunlight. But it can be amazing how light it can be out. Well, there's also the moon. Yeah, we got the moon, but I don't know. Everything that you're seeing that would still be there, even if you weren't in our solar system, is all lit up, you know. Because I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't be able to see your hand. I don't know. But now, if I had a flashlight and I turned the flashlight on, that would certainly be what. And I was trying to tell you later about the story. That's what I would say. I would say, yeah, there was this thing called a flashlight, and I turned it on, and now suddenly I was like casting shadows on things and lightsaber, and it was so cool, you know. And that's the first day, you know, and that's ding, Keter, you know, the number one in the Kabbalah, and everything that corresponds with number one, you know, idea and fire. And so now, what about science? Now, the Bible's not a book of science. I didn't say I believe. Sure as hell don't believe that. But strangely enough, you know, 4.5 billion years ago, I think they say it is, or something. The first step of our solar system happening was that the sun, you know, the story starts with the sun, you know, lighting up, you know. So it is kind of interesting that it starts there. That's correct. That's the right place to start, if you're trying to be cool to the scientists. It's just everybody's so into arguing these days. Then the second day, God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and then divided the waters from under the firmament, and the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so, because they believed that heaven and hell was literally, there was this thing called a firmament, and it was a bunch of water above us, and there was a bunch of water below us, and that their beliefs, this is literal, like how it's saying this is, you know, the teaching of this ancient book. It's because that's what they believe. They believe there was a firmament with waters. It's describing what they think the sky is and things like that, you know. And they didn't know the earth was round, you know. It took time for us to figure those things out. So they just thought it was like this floating waterbed up above us, or I don't know what. It's easy to find experts that can tell you more